unique privilege of having with us today champions from different parts of the world. His Excellency Chandrababu Naidu, the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh State in India, is he's an iconic leader in India. And for those of you that know India for the IT revolution, it is popularly said that of every 4 IT experts in the world, there's one from India. And for every 4 IT experts in India, there's one from his state. Although the population of his state is only 4% of India's population and 25% of the IT experts. So thank you for your leadership and championship, sir. We're going to hear from you something very outstanding that you are doing in your province to completely change the future of your state, your country, and hopefully the world. So thank you for being here today. We have with us His Excellency Mr. Luhut Panjaitan, the Coordinating Minister of Maritime Affairs for the Republic of Indonesia. He is someone who I have known for a long time and had the privilege of working with. The Tropical Landscapes Finance Facility, which is now successfully operational in Indonesia, started thanks to his belief and faith in taking risks and willing to step out of the comfort zones that you normally see governments resort to, because if you don't take risk, it's always less problems, especially if you're a politician. So thank you, sir, for your leadership, because what you did in Indonesia, we have learned, we have improvised, and we've taken that to India, where we are working with the Honorable Chief Minister, and the first investment in sustainable development in India in that state will be $2.3 billion. And thank you for that, because it wouldn't have started without you. So thank you so much. We have with us Her Excellency Lina Paul, the Minister of Environment from El Salvador. Minister Paul is a champion in every possible way I can describe, but more importantly, she's the driving force now behind the decade of ecosystem restoration that is now making waves, and different countries, different continents are now signing up to the great idea. And we hope that the project, or I wouldn't call it a project because it is a system scale transformation that is happening in Andhra Pradesh, could be a flagship as part of that 10 years of ecosystem restoration, because this is restoring an entire state of 55 million people. So thank you, Minister Paul, for being here and your championship. And last but not the least, we have a very, very significant environmental champion from Africa, Minister Vincent Biruta from the Republic of Rwanda. And as my friend Eric often says, that the cleanest place on the earth is Rwanda. Maybe they get a little bit of competition from Japan. So congratulations, Minister, for what you are doing in Rwanda. There's so much to learn, and I'm so delighted that the champions we have on the podium today are all from the Global South. So it's a brilliant example of South-South cooperation and champions from the South helping each other, learning from each other. So thank you so much. On to my right, we have Eric Solheim, he needs no introduction. The head of UN Environment, and more importantly, from my perspective, as the person that was leading the work on sustainable finance in partnership with the World Agroforestry Center, BNP Paribas, is that we would not have been where we are today without Eric's championship and support. So thank you, Eric, for that. Thank you so much. We also, we are unfortunately missing Fumjile, the Executive Director of UN Women, because the timing of our event changed, so unfortunately she had to miss out on it last minute. But we are ably represented, she's ably represented here by Yannick Lemarek, who's actually someone who's been working on this for a decade or so, or even more. And Yannick has been a great supporter. I remember that Yannick was in Indonesia when we launched the Tropical Landscape Finance Facility in the Coordinating Ministry for Economic Affairs. Yannick was there representing UN Women in that launch event. So thank you, Yannick, for being there and being here now. Thank you so much. We also have a great environmental champion, someone who also is someone who I admire so much personally, Pawan Sukhdev, the president of the board of WWF International. And we have Olga Algairova, who's the Executive Under-Secretary General and Executive Secretary for the Economic Commission for Europe. And Olga's presence here is significant in the sense that much of what we are doing, either in terms of learning or in terms of sharing, there's much to happen in Europe. So we look forward to working with the Commission in Europe in a much stronger way in driving this whole sustainable landscapes and ecosystem restoration agenda forward. You will also be hearing from our friends in the front row, BNP Paribas, Laurence, IDH, the CEO is here, Joost Oorthuizen, ICRAF, the Director General, Tony Simons is here, from the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, and the Chief Economist of the UN, Assistant Secretary General Elliot Harris is here, the Executive Secretary of the Conference on Biodiversity, the Convention on Biodiversity is here, Ruth, who's the Executive Director of the Global Alliance for the Future of Food is here. So you'll be hearing from a lot of champions. Unfortunately, podium space is limited, so please forgive me for putting you in the front row. But I understand that the UN is very technology savvy, so everybody will be able to see you on the screen as you speak. So without much ado, let me start by just providing a little bit of a background to what is happening now. We know that globally more than 1 billion people depend on nature for their livelihoods. And everybody depends on nature for their livelihoods. But at least 1 billion directly are dependent on nature for their livelihoods. And it is also recognized widely that public funding on its own will not be sufficient to tackle some of the most defining challenges the planet is facing, which is simultaneously producing more food while stimulating economic growth and jobs at the same time as reducing deforestation and tackling climate change. It's quite a complex equation, but there are solutions as we are seeing it already at scale, and we have a host of champions here today who will be sharing their experiences and also providing their insights as to how we could do better. In the interest of time, I will stop there and start with Eric Solheim as the host of today's event to preface the event and his vision for sustainable landscapes. Eric, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Satya. And it's hard for me to explain how happy I am attending this event, because this is truly inspirational. It's exactly what we want to do, to provide the partnerships which can transform the world. Look at this. Number one, this is partnership. I think everyone understands that there is no way government alone or business alone or indeed a state like Andhra Pradesh alone can transform the world. Only through partnerships we can have huge success in all our big issues of the day. And this is the state of Andhra Pradesh. It's the government of India. It's BNP Paribas, one of the biggest banks in Europe, maybe the biggest. It's other investors and also more and more the companies who can market the products coming from Andhra Pradesh. And it's UN Environment and indeed other UN entities. And I may have forgotten others, that this is really partnership. And partnership is the way forward. All of us are too small alone. Together in partnership, we can achieve a lot. Secondly, this is about leadership. And I really cannot pay enough tribute to you, Chief Minister Naidu. You are a true leader. For those of you who are not really well into Indian politics, but Chief Minister Naidu was in the past the Chief Minister of the combined state of what is today Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. He made the capital of that, Hyderabad, the #1 IT destination of India, bringing any number of companies there. Now he's the Chief Minister of State of Andhra Pradesh after the divorce of the two states. But with the aim of making Andhra Pradesh the prime business destination in the world, the aim of transforming the transport in the state into electrical mobility, the aim of being renewable, and in the midst of all this, constructing a completely new capital for the new state. So this is truly inspirational leadership. But there are other leaders here as well, some of them very good friends of mine. Pak Luhut, a fantastic minister from Indonesia who's coordinating oceans but has set Indonesia out to fight plastic pollution and many other issues. Lina Paul from El Salvador taking the lead on making this decade for landscapes and ecosystem restoration. And of course, Vincent Peruta, my good friend from Rwanda, one of the most amazing countries. Look to what Rwanda has achieved after the absolute horrendous genocide in 1994, making this one of the prime business destination, most rapid economic development in Africa, and on top of that, maybe the cleanest place in the world. So, yes, while we celebrate Indian leadership here, there is also much wider leadership. Adding to all this, this is about innovation. Let be never in doubt, this is not about taking agriculture back to the kind of the old days when, yes, it may have been environment friendly, but where it produced hardly anything. This is taking agriculture innovatively into a future where, yes, you use less fertilizer and, yes, less insecticides and less inputs of all sorts, but you produce more through scientific way of organizing the agriculture. So it's innovation and science, but based on an environment-friendly future. So if people tell you this is going back, no, this is really rapidly going forward. State of Andhra Pradesh was the state driving the first green revolution in India with Punjab. I think you can be proud of that. There was environment issues coming from the first green revolution, but it was also a huge social uplifting of people who simply got more into their stomachs. Now we are spearheading the second green revolution in the same innovative manner. This is also, which is critical, this is also scale. I'm quite often speaking to Indian ministers, and sorry to tell all of you who have small, tiny, nice projects, they're not really interested. Very rare that an Indian minister is interested in a pilot project. Why is that? Because the scale of 1.3 billion people, soon to be the most populous nation in the world, is so big that the interest is on what's at scale. Prime Minister Modi could very recently celebrate the fact that every single village in India is connected to the grid. Andhra Pradesh did that long before the average of India, but that's scale. Providing toilet to all Indians, that's scale. And of course, what is at stake here in Andhra Pradesh is really scale. 375,000 farmers are already into this. Haven't counted the number of farmers in my nation, but I think it's less than 100,000. So just the start in Andhra Pradesh is many times the number of farmers in Norway. It will be 500,000 this year, and it will end up at 6 million farmers, which is, of course, huge scale. That's much more difficult than having a few small programs or pilot projects. So the scale of this is astonishing. But when you make this successful, of course, it will be taken to others. The neighboring state of Karnataka is already on the verge of starting, and other states of India will do it, and for sure many other parts of the world. So when this is successful in Andhra Pradesh, it's a fantastic story to tell to the world, which the state will tell. Finally, this is about triple wins. I'm not aware of any prime minister, president in the world, or indeed any chief minister in the world who was elected just to protect the environment. If you can tell me that person, I would be happy to embrace that person, but I'm not aware of anyone. Every political leader in the world needs jobs, economic development, protection of the social issues of the people, and environment. And that's exactly what this is, triple win. Producing more so that the farmers of Andhra Pradesh are better fed and get a better economic income, better life, taking care of the health and the social issues of people, because with less fertilizer and less chemicals, the health of the farmers will benefit. And adding to that, this is a fantastic favor to Mother Earth. So this is really, Chief Minister, triple win. Good for the economy, good for the health, good for environment at the same time. So I hope I tried to convey to you how inspired I am. I think you all will be as inspired when you see this, and I'm sure the Chief Minister Naidu will welcome you to Andhra Pradesh to see with your own eyes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for those inspiring comments, which so well articulate the transformative work that is going on in India, Indonesia, Latin America, and Africa, which we'll be hearing more of very soon. May I now invite Yannick Glamarek to offer his comments? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Satya. Good evening, everybody. Based on existing development trends, we are not to achieve gender equality before the second half of the 22nd century. And a gender unequal world will also be an unsustainable world. We are not to achieve, to protect biodiversity. We are not to address climate change if we are still a gender unequal world. The UN Women was established 7 years ago to try to act as a smart catalyst to break these development trends and try to accelerate efforts toward gender equality and women empowerment. To achieve our mandate, we focus on four main thematic: women political empowerment, women economic empowerment, elimination of violence against women, and women engagement in crisis prevention, response, and recovery. Now, in terms of women economic empowerment, the topic which is directly linked to the workshop today, one of our key priorities is to address the gender gap in access to productive assets, be land, technology, market, finance, or time. And because finance is such a big issue, we ended up trying to look at how can we be a smart catalyst when it comes to addressing the gender gap in finance. And we increasingly got convinced that innovative and digital finance could enable us to dramatically change the game for women farmers, for women entrepreneurs. Why digital finance? We believe that digital finance can at least provide four new types of services. The first one is that with big data and artificial intelligence system, we can now relatively easily incorporate environment, social, and governance standards into investment decision making. And that's the reason why UN Women was extremely proud to be associated with ICRAF and with the government of Indonesia and, of course, UNEP in launching the Tropical Landscape Facility. And our objective was to try to provide some technical assistance to make sure that the projects supported by this facility are not only green, but they are also socially inclusive. That means that they provide a triple development dividends in terms of finance, in terms of environmental sustainability, and gender equality. We are also working we are also trying to leverage artificial intelligence and big data to try to change the way financial institutions assess credit risk, etc. So that's the first element where we believe that sustainable digital finance has a huge potential. A second element is new business model. And here again, if we look at what is being done in India and in Indonesia, we are speaking about a new business model for decentralized renewable energy technologies and for sustainable farming system. And this business model leverage mobile banking, leverage Internet of Things, and leverage artificial intelligence. We are trying to leverage all these technologies by creating an ecosystem of mobile applications to address the gender gap in agriculture. We believe that with a mobile banking system, we can enable women farmers to have an idea about the overall area they farm, to be able to have an idea about how much they are willing to sell. We can help them in getting a forward contract from the buyers and use this forward contract as a collateral to get access to finance and increase their productivity. Because of the increase in yield, because of the reduction in post-harvest losses, and because of the better takeoff price, we can actually double the income of a woman farmer in 1 year. And here again, we are being associated with a number of UN agencies in this effort. We also believe that with innovative and digital finance, we can come with new sources of finance. And UN Women with UNCDF is right now working on a new instrument called Unit Life. And the idea of Unit Life is basically to try to get some micro grants from everybody when you go to pay for something during the e-payment, to try to address chronic malnutrition, and notably through addressing the gender gap in agriculture. And we believe that with digital finance, we have an entire new world of opportunities for citizen engagement. For example, it's possible with digital finance to try to assess what will be the impact of our purchasing behavior of what we buy on the carbon footprint of everybody. And that we can start providing this information to every single citizen, and therefore change our behaviors. And we can associate with this information some incentives for people to, for example, go for one type of purchase versus another one. One good example is Ant Forest. Ant Forest is an application that was launched by Alibaba Pay, which is now called Ant Finance, if my memory is correct, in August 2016. And now they have more than 300 users. And every time one of these consumers buys something which is environmentally responsible, for example, an efficient light bulb rather than an LED rather than an incandescent light bulb, they get some point, and these points are being used to plant trees. And so I strongly believe that we are at the beginning of a brave new world. And if we can create the type of alliances needed, we can truly leverage innovative and digital finance to align finance with sustainable development and break trends, not only for gender equality, but for all of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yannick. I think the power of the people manifested through digital networks, and if you can leverage that in a credible and in a successful and an inclusive way, we can really transform the world. And that's what is waiting to happen to sustainable landscapes, because that can really change things. With that, let me invite somebody who has been at the crossroads of both finance and environment and of course the green economy. Pavan Sukhdev, who has in his past life been a professional banker at the highest levels, and now an environmental champion at the front lines of both advocacy and ideas. Let me invite Pavan Sukhdev, the president of the board of WWF International. Pavan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Satya. Distinguished leaders on the panel, friends, ladies and gentlemen. First, a few words about the organization WWF and why, for us, the idea of sustainable landscapes is heart and center of our mission. WWF is, I think, the nearest way I can describe it to you is kind of a United Nations of NGOs with a common mission. We have 34 independent national organizations, 50 different project offices, altogether 85. We have got 5.4 million supporters around the world, 7,000 staff. So as those of you who work with the United Nations are familiar, achieving consensus is quite an art form in a situation like this. Thankfully, we have a common mission, which has always been to build a future in which humans can live in harmony with nature. And I think from that mission comes our desire to work with nature, and work with farmers, and work with landscapes. But that is easier said than done, because independent organizations can make independent strategic decisions. So therefore, my predecessors and the team created 9 knowledge groups, and one of those knowledge groups is food. And just to give you a sense of why this is significant, I think some of the other knowledge groups that we have is climate. We call them practice groups. Another one is forest, another one is wildlife. So we consider food to be extremely central to the challenge that we are trying to address, which is the challenge of humans living in harmony with nature. I would like to convince you of why this is important, not just for us, but indeed for achieving all of the Sustainable Development Goals. I personally believe that food systems and how we handle them, and landscapes and how we manage them to deliver the food that we eat, are probably the single most important driver of sustainability across all of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. They are pervasive, they are impactful, and they are opportune. Because when we say food systems, firstly, what I mean and what we mean is actually eco-agri-food systems. This is the forest that gets destroyed in order to be able to made into a field to feed the cows or to feed the crops which we will eat. This is also the process of farming, together with its huge employments and its emissions. Few people realize that farming actually is the largest employer by far, by an order of magnitude. In other words, 10 times bigger than the next largest. 1.3 billion people around the world are employed largely as farmers. Out of those, 1 billion people are smallholder farmers, which means farms less than 2 hectares. They operate out of 525 million farms around the world. And when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions, when we talk about agriculture, we are not seeing the full picture. When we talk about eco-agri-food systems, looking the whole of the food system, including the production of food on the farm, the emissions, including the manufacturing, including the processing, and the waste, which on its own, food waste is the 3rd largest emitter if it were a country. If we look at food systems like that, then in fact they account for between 43 and 57% of total greenhouse gas emissions. In other words, the single largest contribution to the greenhouse gas challenge that we face today. If we think in terms of gender, and my colleague here has highlighted these issues, 60 to 70% of the farmers in sub-Saharan Africa actually are women. When we talk about equality, the SDG, we cannot do that without looking at farming. So, in a nutshell, whether it is climate, SDG 13, or whether it is the poverty, SDG 1, or whether it is food, hunger, SDG 2, indeed, even if we look at something not directly obvious like health, SDG 3, it has now been found that our diets are the #1 driver, the #1 cost of health. We are here talking about diseases which are lifestyle diseases, which are driven by the kind of food we eat and the marketing and advertising that drives that, including common problems such as obesity and diabetes, and less common problems but very dangerous ones such as endocrine disruption and indeed antibiotic resistance. These are all associated with food systems. So we can't solve SDG 3 without addressing food systems either. I feel that one of the biggest opportunities on the flip side is if we get smallholder farming right. I feel this because not only if we can address the livelihoods of 1 billion people, if we can address their opportunity to craft a better life, we will have addressed numerous problems simultaneously. Not only is it a question of addressing SDGs 1, poverty, and 2, hunger, we would have created the opportunity for them to lead more fulfilling lives. And at the same time, having addressed gender equality issues, SDGs, to do with the climate side as well, because the type of farming they engage in. But what can policymakers do? And I feel that policymaking in the developing world truly needs to focus on 3 particular aspects of the smallholder farm. About its yield, trying to increase the yield in a sustainable manner, about its risks, and part of the risks are the health risks of farming in an unsustainable manner, which directly affect the farmers, but part of the health risks are also to do with soil health and indeed the health of those who eat the food that is grown there. So addressing the lower risks and also addressing the climate risks which directly impact the success of farming. And lastly, the importance of fairer prices. So today's smallholder farmer, so important for our livelihoods, they grow more than half the food that we eat, and yet so neglected in terms of policy driver, I believe needs to be focused on in terms of sustainable and higher yield. Number 2, lower risks, and number 3, fairer prices. If I were to identify projects that actually do achieve that, frankly, and I'm not saying this because Chandrababu Naidu is here, but because I really do believe it, and because Vijay Kumar is here, who has done such an outstanding job with his colleagues on the ground, or because Satya is here, who is a friend and with the United Nations now and has done so well, or because Eric, who has been supporting this project. I'm saying this because if we look at the statistics, it is outstanding. Smallholder farming in Andhra Pradesh, being done through the ZBNF, the Zero Budget Natural Farming Initiative, has actually been working in exactly that direction. And that is why I'm so pleased to be sharing the podium with all of you who are involved in this. You have managed to demonstrate over several years that the yields are higher, no matter whether it is the 8 kinds of rice varieties you grow, or the chilies, or the red gram, or the black gram. You have achieved higher yields whilst also constraining the costs, and therefore higher returns as well, not just higher yields, but higher returns for the farmer. You have been able to lower the risk, and I hear this when I visit your farms there. I hear the story of health, how they tell me in their language that, no, sir, our health is better, the soil's health is better, and when you eat our food, your health will be better. So that has been achieved as well. The risks have been lowered. I think fairer prices is the one area where I would like us as financiers to be able to help them. Because at the end of the day, that is about certification, that is about markets, and that is about financing. So I'm very pleased to have our friends from BNP Paribas here with us in today. And we hope that through this kind of partnership, which Eric referred to, we will be able to take, with the support of all of you, these initiatives like ZBNF and others who are following in their footsteps to the next level. I believe this is an idea whose time has come. I believe we are the people to make it happen, and I'm truly honored to be in this group here to support you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Pavan. Thank you for being a fantastic supporter of the cause. And also thank you for being someone who's been at the forefront of this move towards sustainable finance. Pavan kindly supports us pro bono for a long time on the steering committees of the Tropical Landscape Finance Facility, that of the Sustainable India Finance Facility, and many more things that I've had the privilege of working with him for almost a decade now. And so thank you so much for not just for the support of WWF International as the world's leading activist non-governmental organization supporting the cause, but also yourself as a person and as someone who's a champion for the cause. Thank you, Pavan. With that, let me invite the Under Secretary General and Executive Secretary for the Economic Commission for Europe, Olga Algairova, to offer her remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really honored to have opportunity to address this excellent discussion accompanied by brilliant environmental personalities. So thank you once again, and I believe that it's really thanks to partnerships, as Eric mentioned today. My role here today is to tell you what UNEC can do for financing sustainable landscapes, or what we are doing today. UNEC is one of the 5 regional UN commissions. We are the smallest one, in fact. We are just 188 people, but how we work is we network 8,000 experts from our member states who produce standards and norms and guidelines and exchange the best practices. So our region, we cover 56 member states. This is the European Union, the Balkans, the former Soviet Union, and the United States, Canada, Turkey, Israel, Switzerland. So quite diverse region, also on environmental issues. As mentioned, typical normative organization, and we do a lot for sustainable development. Let me restrict myself today on 2 elements, and that's forests and water. Speaking on forests, in my opinion, the market mechanism don't always address or allocate resources for where needed. What I'm speaking about is the value of environmental services provided by forests and also other natural capital. I'm sure we all would agree that there is a great value of sitting in the shade of a tree. But adding more to that is forests are protecting us from landslides, from floods, from avalanches, and of course they contribute fantastically to cleaner air, cleaner water, and climate. Let me give you some numbers. Recent research assesses the value of environmental benefits by forests at $16.2 trillion per year and wetlands services at $26.4 trillion per year. Still, critical financing is missing and opportunities are missed. Innovative mechanisms such as payment for forest ecosystem services can raise resources for the preservation of natural capital and address these market failures. This payment scheme provides an incentive structure. For instance, the user of an environmental service, such as water purification, pays the landowner who provides that service, giving him a very concrete reason to preserve the ecosystem. UNEC has always been developing recommendations and assessing the scope and conditions for such schemes. First, we have found that water-related payment for forest ecosystem services that are based on a partnership model again are more successful in accessing multiple sources of funding, increasing organizational resilience to changing political support, and ensuring that forest owners and managers engage over the long term. And second, we also found that we can make these schemes more cost-effective if we focus on ecosystem service bundling, recognizing that forests are a single ecosystem that provides multiple related services that can be combined in a single credit. Moreover, such schemes can provide important co-benefits such as carbon mitigation, biodiversity conservation, and social benefits. We have a publication that will be coming in the near future titled Forests and Water, Valuations and Payments for Ecosystem Services. I hope you can keep your eye for that. It will contain recommendations for how to deploy such payment schemes effectively, including the sources, both national and international, are primarily targeted to national and local projects. to all investors out there, the market opportunities are far from trivial. The Business and Sustainable Development Commission has estimated that forest ecosystem services could be worth up to $365 billion annually by 2030. So let us move to water. UNEC hosts the Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Watercourses and International Lakes, or short Water Convention. Over 40% of the global population lives within transboundary basins and aquifers, making the successful management of these resources essential to long-term poverty reduction, sustainable development of the environment, and in many cases, longer-term political stability. Many of those basins are very vulnerable to climate change. By the way, the Water Convention became global now because we have recent accession of Chad and Senegal, so it's not anymore just regional convention. According to estimates by the World Bank, investments in water infrastructure need to triple to $114 billion per year to meet SDG targets 6.1 and 6.2. For such big investments to be sustainable and viable, they need to take into account the transboundary context. Therefore, there should be developed in cooperation between riparian countries. But many countries face difficulties in financing such transboundary cooperation because of lack of sustainable funding models and because the benefits are not always known. Moreover, many funding sources, both national and international, are primarily targeted to national or local projects. First, if we want bankable projects that will be attractive to public and private investors, we need to understand and manage the special risks and complexities of transboundary river basin projects, such as the involvement of multiple countries, legal responsibility, and mandate for implementation, and the challenges of sharing upstream and downstream benefits and commitments. At the same time, the transboundary context offers risk mitigation tools that are not available in single country projects, especially when the national river basin organizations are in place. These tools include cooperation agreements, risk sharing, and additional resource leveraging potential. The transboundary context also complicates blended public-private financing models. Specific guarantees were traditionally only designed for national contexts, but are now also offered by World Bank and IFIs for the transboundary context and need to be tested. I already mentioned UNEC's Water Convention that can help to create an enabling environment for investments. This Water Convention can increase sustainability of cooperation projects and reduce investment risks thanks to the legally binding long-term commitments made by countries and its continuous support for cooperation. Convention supports countries and basins in raising funds for transboundary basin development. In fact, we are organizing a global high-level workshop on precisely this topic with the World Bank, EIB, ADB, GEF, and others on 9th of October this year in Astana, back-to-back with the 8th session of the meeting of parties of this convention. I'm pleased to report that this support is available to all member states. As I mentioned, this convention was offered to be global a few years ago, and we have these recent African accessions. Ladies and gentlemen, in the UNEC region, there is a very high need to invest in repairing, maintaining, and upgrading old water and sanitation infrastructures. This, again, represents a financing challenge, but it is also a development opportunity, considering also the interlinkages between the water, energy, and food and ecosystems. it is important to plan resource use in an integrated manner. We at UNEC, we are proud to serve as a platform that brings together different stakeholders. I'm coming back to partnerships, to identify opportunities for all parties affected by the water, energy, food ecosystems nexus, and this identification and the mobilization of the political will to unlock these opportunities are the necessary first step to raise financing. I hope I was able to tell you about how the UN, and namely UNEC, can address the challenge of financing sustainable landscapes, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Olga. I think what you mentioned is very important because it very much outlines and highlights that the challenges are no different in any part of the world. Their complexities may be a little different from one part to the other, but in every part of the world we need to find sustainable finance to make the climate equation tick and work for everybody. With that, I have the pleasure of inviting His Excellency Mr. Chandrababu Naidu, the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, to offer his remarks. Mr. Naidu, the floor is yours.
His Excellencies on the dais and friends. తెలుగు వారందరి తరపున భారతీయుల తరపున ఈరోజు ఈ కార్యక్రమానికి చేసిన మీ అందరికీ మనస్ఫూర్తిగా నమస్కారాలు. ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్ నేడు ప్రకృతి వ్యవసాయానికి కేంద్రంగా మారింది. ఇది ప్రపంచానికి ఒక ఆదర్శం. 2 minutes I am able to speak in my mother tongue. This is the rarest occasion for me to address this type of subject. People on the dais, everybody is working towards natural farming. As a matter of fact, we are able to produce results now. Just now Satya has rightly mentioned, all over the world, in IT, India is very strong. Out of 4 IT professionals, 1 is Indian. Among Indians, out of 4, 1 is from our state. If we see today, either Google CEO or Microsoft, they are all Indians. Now I am taking a subject. I promoted technology in a big way for the last 2 decades. Now I am promoting technology and nature together. It will do wonders. That is where we are going for natural farming. I want to explain today India's first natural farming state, 6 million farmers, 8 million hectares, 50 million citizens. A system-wide scale role model for the global community, for world itself. If you see here in my state, it contributes 28% to the state GSDP from agriculture. 62% of population depends on agriculture and related activities. As our people, as our friends have rightly mentioned, with the Green Revolution, Andhra Pradesh has become rice bowl of India. 8 million hectares cropped area, diversified cropping systems, second longest coastline, 974 square kilometers, India's largest producer of fruits, eggs, aquaculture products. As on today, horticulture, we are able to cultivate nearly 1.7 million hectares. If you see here, it is the scenario all over the world. Agriculture, the vicious cycle, high cost, risks in production and marketing, food insecurity, rural from their migration to the urban areas, ecosystem degradation in a big way, climate impacts. Because of that, there are floods, there are droughts. Even recently in Kerala, in India, there are huge flood. So much of damage. This is the overall scenario as on today. For all these things, answer is very clear. We are able to convince now all international agencies also zero budget natural farming. This is regenerative agriculture. It is one way farmers' welfare, reduced cost and risks, increased yields, regular income, climate change resilience. If you see freedom from hunger, more food, safe food, and nutritious food. As on today, we are all eating either chemical fertilizers or pesticides. That is what we are all eating today. As our friends have rightly mentioned, beautiful advertisements. We are all tempted, and also very good recipe by chefs. So we are all eating all, I can say, contaminated or chemical fertilizers. Now, because of zero budget natural farming, reverse migration. Even you may not believe, IT professionals are coming for agriculture today. Now they are enjoying the work and also they are earning more money. That is a reverse migration as already started. Environment side, enhanced soil health, water conservation, regeneration coastal ecosystem, biodiversity. As on today, if you see, land is giving everything for us. Mother is giving birth. Motherland is giving everything, either food, water, air, quality of air, everything. Now we are polluting everything. Even soil is totally eroded and also soil health is suffering. So that we are getting not a good food at all. Here, very simple principles if you see, ZBNF core principles, living soil concept. Now, soil is alive. It is ill health. You are spoiling the health of the soil. Then naturally what food we are going to get? Same quality of food we are getting. For this, what we are giving principles here, microbial seed coating through cow urine and dung-based formulations. It is very cost effective. Even compared to organic culture, this concept of natural farming, it is very cost effective. Bio inoculant to stimulate soil microbiome, cover crops, mulching with crops and crop residues, soil aeration and water vapor harvesting, zero chemicals, no synthetic fertilizer or pesticides. I am very happy. If you can go all these things, then you are having a quality food. If you see here the scaling, even the concept is very good. And at the same time, if you produce outcomes, then only it is a reality. Now we are moving in that direction. To change a farmer, whole village approach we have taken up. To change a farmer systematically, it will take 3 years. First time he is not believing. He is starting 1/3 or 1/4 of his land. Second year is convinced. Then he will go 50%, 60%. 3 years, all his land is converting. As our friends has rightly mentioned, now people are saying, my health has been improved. I am very happy. I am serving the community. And also my land is improved. My soil health is excellent. That is the concept now it is picking up. First year we are having 15% target. Second year 50% target. Third year 80% target. Within 5 years time, 100% we are going to implement it. That means total state will be ZBNF farming. That is where we are working. I am confident we will achieve the results. If you see here, state government commitment and ownership. We are having women self-help groups. I am very happy some of our friends have referred it. 20 years back we have started self-help groups. We are having 9 lakh groups, roughly 1 million. 9 million women are working. They are highly motivated. They are taking this program in a big way. They are doing wonderful work. The real farmers are becoming champion farmers. This is CRPS. This is the concept we are working. They are working to transform totally. They are going outside the village. Even sometimes they don't know the language. They are going outside the state. They are talking, they are convincing farmers. It is very elaborate exercise. Our people are highly motivated. They will cultivate, they will show others, and also they will stay in the village for 10 days, 15 days, 1 month or 2 months until other side farmer is convinced. That is how this momentum has taken up. Knowledge and training, we are having knowledge. That knowledge has to take to the last mile and produce results. Collective action for inputs. This is Uberization we are taking up so that in a village, as a festive atmosphere, they are supplying inputs and they are sharing, they are working in a big way. Here we are going knowledge how to take to the last mile and also every product traceability. Tomorrow what you are eating, you can know the history of that food. Suppose you are eating one apple or one orange, which land it has come, what is the ingredients, what is the soil properties, what is the pesticides, no fertilizer, it is tested. That is the biggest advantage we are having. And also tracking, we can track. We are very strong in information technology. We wanted to use information technology in a big way. Nowadays, we are all watching. Totally IoT devices have come. In my state, groundwater, you can measure real time. Surface water, you can measure real time. Even cyclone prediction, you can know real time, tracking, movements, everything. Ultimately, street lights, I can monitor from New York to remote village, that light is off or on. That is how we are going real-time governance. As on today, that is the approach. Future, I'm telling you, we are number 1 in ease of doing business. I wanted to be distant number 1. And also, we are going ease of living. Everything will be online. No need to go to any office. Then we can control total corruption. We are going most livable standards. Quality water, quality of food, quality of air, quality of health. Like that we are going. And ultimately, our aim is to have quality life with happiness. Happiness is very, very important for all of us. Human life should be meaningful. For that, ZBNF is very, very important. If you see here in ZBNF, our achievements, 2016 we started, 40,000 farmers. 2017, it has become 163,000 farmers. 2018, now we are having 500,000 farmers, 500,000 acres of land. 2020, 1.7 million farmers. 2022, 4.1 million farmers. 2024, all 6 million farmers will be ZBNF farmers. Then it will be a model for the global community to emulate, to follow Andhra Pradesh. I am confident before that you all realize, then you will come back to us. We'll work with you to make global community to provide safe food. Here, I'm very happy. 20 years experience women groups are working. They are taking up this momentum. So many partners are here. I need your collaborations, either finance, sustainability models, philanthropy, knowledge sharing, and also marketing. I am providing one of the best products, but I need marketing. There are some people here. You have to help me. There are some organizations, food processing organizations, food chains. They have to come forward. This is a natural food we are giving, no pesticide, no fertilizer. Even we are going to do certification and everything, but only people, like-minded people, all of us has to join together to promote this product in a big way. Overall benefits, if you see here, ZBNF, if you invest $1 investment, $13 worth of direct benefits, cost reduction, risk reduction, higher yields, better prices. And also total cost of implementation, it takes nearly USD 365 per capita over a period of 5 years period for a farmer to adopt ZBNF. In this, another benefits if you see, safe food, better nutrition and health security, employment in a big way, soil health, water security, coastal ecosystem regeneration, biodiversity, climate resilience, ultimately best ecosystem for health benefits to all citizens. One side, we are going to address the farmers' welfare and also their well-being. On the other side, health of the global community. If you eat good food, you need not go to a hospital. That is, hospital cost will be reduced and automatically health will be improved. As on today in India, average lifespan is 70 years. If they eat all this food, comfortably they will live happily 100 years. They will work happily, and also they will enjoy meaningful life, not suffering, not problematic life, and also they can have better living standards. Our people have rightly mentioned sustainable development goals. I am very happy. I will announce here, by 2022, we will achieve what UN mentioned about sustainable development goals. They are saying 2030. We are going to implement 2022. You can make it clear. I will have a dashboard. That dashboard I will connect to you. You can go through all your 17 goals, sub-goals, everything by 2022. That is our assurance. So that sustainable development goals will achieve. Not only one time. Ultimately, sustainability is very, very important. I am producing a model here, creating wealth. Wealth has to be created by using technology and also protecting nature and also environment. That is how we are going. I am very happy to be here. We are going all vehicles into electrical vehicles. All power generation is renewable power. That is solar and wind. We are going in a big way, power storage. So that this is where our friends has rightly mentioned, we are all in an inspiring time. You wanted to get it done, anything, you are capable of getting done anything in this world because of technology and also knowledge and also IoT. If you use all these things for better living standards, it is possible. I need one thing from all of you. Seeing is belief. Our friends have come. They saw. They interact with farmers. They are totally convinced. I am requesting all of you who are all assembled here, come to Andhra Pradesh, be our state guest. You will witness what we are doing. If you are convinced, you help with our concept, and also you take our concept for the benefit of the global community. I am very happy. I have addressed so many meetings in information technology and economic reforms and so many things. Today, it is a very inspiring time for me. This is a very good occasion for me to promote natural farming. This is a rare occasion. So I am very happy. The leaders who are all here, you have to take this concept on a fast track to the, to the global community. I am confident UN is doing excellent job. I appreciate their efforts. With their support, with their involvement, we will work together to make this concept a win-win situation, and already we have achieved proof of concept. It is only a scaling now. That is system-based scaling. If I achieve this, then it is sustainable. For that, what I am requesting all of you, you have to help me in providing knowledge and also documentation and also testing continuously so that others will believe immediately. Otherwise, people are thinking without fertilizer, without pesticide, how can we produce agriculture produce itself? How can we produce food? That is the scenario, that is the psychological feeling all of us are having. But our forefathers never used fertilizer. They never used pesticides. They have gone only with natural farming. That is where we are reinventing now. I need all our cooperation, and I'm very happy. I wish all the best. By eating natural farming food, you will also live 100 years or 120 years. So we will supply to start with. Afterwards, you can produce in your country, in your state. This is where we are here. I am very happy and thankful to you. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Mr. Naidu, for that inspiring speech, and also the announcement that Andhra Pradesh will achieve the SDGs 8 years before the deadline of 2030, and that will be absolutely amazing. And we look forward to working with you and the other leaders. I want to recognize the Finance Minister of Andhra Pradesh, who's here, the Agriculture Minister of Andhra Pradesh, who are also here. So it's and we look forward to working with you. We are already working with you, and we look forward to working with you. That brings me to where it all began for us in terms of our work on sustainable finance. A champion without whom we wouldn't even start. Pa Luhut Panjaitan, who was then the Chief of Staff to the President of Indonesia, with whose blessings and active support, the Tropical Landscapes Finance Facility idea blossomed into something that we are all proud of today. But he's also a champion on oceans and a champion on plastics and a champion on so many environmental issues that is confronting the world. Indonesia is the 4th largest country in the world, and also it is a microcosm of a lot of geopolitical realities that we see in terms of sovereign states. It is 17,000 islands, so it's at some level it is small island developing states as well. If you take the smallest islands within the archipelago, it's a huge country in terms of geographical spread. Almost spreads half of the globe literally from one end to the other. Starts somewhere close to India and ends somewhere close to Australia. It's that wide, and it's an oceanic state with tens of thousands of kilometers of coastline if you take all the islands. So the challenges are immense, but the promises are also equally alluring. So Pa Luhut, the floor is yours.
Excellency Satya, which is a very good friend of mine, and he encouraged me to be part of this program when I was Chief of Staff. But to be honest to you, I didn't believe that it's going to achieve this one. But this is successful because of Pak Satya. I'm just a small part of this effort. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Thank you for the invitation. It is indeed an honor for me. This meeting is timely given that many developing countries are facing challenges in attracting investment for financing sustainable development. It is also timely because it's about preserving our environment through the use of responsible innovative financial mechanism. The measure of success in economic development is not solely based on growth. It is equally measured by how their environment is protected, how the marine protected area is incrementally enlarged. We are measured by our respective society who wants that they can grow and thrive in a pristine environment, breathe clean air, and drink clean water. Excellency, in this, it is just fitting to say that SDGs are more than numbers, goals, and targets. SDGs are about fulfilling our solemn obligation to our society, welfare creation by preserving our environment at land and sea. This is what the UN Charter is all about. It's about promoting social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. It's about employing international machinery for the promotion of the economy and social advancement of all peoples. This is the spirit of a large gathering that we have today. We should never forget that it's our society that we have to serve for. This is what makes me awake in the wee hour. How to achieve sustainable development, how to attract the best ideas that are also practical, how to attract the financial sector. We support the involvement of the financial sector in this effort. No sector, country can function without resilience and vibrant financial sector. The financial sector has unique responsibility in achieving SDGs. Fulfilling SDGs also serve their own interests. A more stable and prosperous long-term future is critical for all of the world's largest institutional investors, which is certainly exposed to global environmental, social, and economic shocks. But this is not only about protecting downside risks. SDGs also open historical opportunity for the financial service industry. As awareness of the urgency of global challenges increase between consumers and regulators, the world is at the beginning of major shift towards an impact economy, where sustainability and social impacts are fundamentally incorporated in investment, production, and consumption decisions. Indonesia recognized that sustainable business model related to SDGs can bring economic opportunity worth up to $12 trillion by 2020. Albeit this fact shows that efforts to mobilize global investment toward SDGs are daunting tasks. A number of large-scale projects that can be invested in developing countries has declined since 2012. It has even grown flat since 2015. Thus, we welcome all innovative financing models. We believe that it can be adapted and improved to fulfill our Paris Agreement commitment and Sustainable Development Goals SDGs. Promoting ecotourism in our coastal areas is one of our priorities. Women living in coastal areas will experience an increase in welfare by engaging in ecotourism. We are also in the process of designating more marine protected areas. What is the use of having a large body of water if our seas is polluted and destroyed by unsustainable practices? Global and regional financial sector are also need to finance more projects that can support environmentally friendly ocean-going ships, to name a few. Distinguished participants, let me tell you about the two innovation projects in Indonesia. The dual story of tropical landscape finance facilities. They've been working together with Pak Satya the last 3 years. One on the rubber plantation. Tropical landscape finance facility has rolled out sustainability bonds to the amount of 95 million US dollars. It will be utilized to finance sustainable industrial rubber plantation companies in highly degraded lands in the provinces of Jambi and East Kalimantan. The planted area will function as a buffer zone to protect national parks and are threatened by encroachments here. Around 45,000 of 88,000 hectares will be reserved for local community livelihoods and conservation activities. This is more than 50%, and 16,000 jobs will be created when the development of the industrial plantation has reached maturity. This is what our aim. It's about maintaining a delicate balance between fulfilling our obligation to job creation and environmental protection. This requires government to listen to all sides, to find solutions that will address the concern of the multitude. Another story which is close to my heart is a small farms in palm oil plantation. Sustainable palm oil can play a large role in achieving SDGs, especially in the poverty alleviation. In Indonesia, the palm oil sector employs around 17.5 million young and old people directly or indirectly. Imagine this 17.5 million women and men, 17.5 people with dreams and hopes spread over 3 time zones of Indonesia. Through Tropical Landscape Finance Facility, we hope by next year we can close $1 billion to finance the replanting of oil palm plantation or small farmers. For any large-scale project involving large number of people and capital, the seed of adverse effects is almost inevitable. We understand there are some concern about the environmental impact as they are concerned about peatland plantation in other parts of the world. Indonesia is pushing hard for our industry to implement sustainable palm oil in production that comply with the Sustainable Development Goals. We engage civil society to implement programs and reforms needed to achieve this goal. We call upon other stakeholders to work together with us constructively. I believe no issue cannot be solved under the sun when it's mean well, when we work collaboratively. This gathering is about pulling the best ideas, pulling the best intention to create a future that we can be proud of. Indonesia, together with UNDP, is the process of establishing Archipelagic and Island States Forum, a place where 46 archipelagic and island states solve pressing matters that threaten our livelihoods with smart and innovative solutions. Climate change and marine plastic debris are some of them. We hope it can be agreed by early November 2018. Distinguished participants, in sum, this meeting is all about promoting social progress and better standard of life. It is about coming together as a responsible international community to bring about economic growth and social advancement of all peoples. We are very pleased with the public-private collaboration platform like TLFF financing facilities. It helps translating political commitments to achieving SDGs. Many innovative financial instruments and mechanisms have made tremendous impact by integrating social factors into the financial system. This is commendable. We, the international community, have to encourage more innovative, but innovation has to be grounded on 3 main objectives, that is maintaining stability of the financial system, welfare of the multitude, and bestowing future generation with pristine environment. We have 12 years to meet our commitment. Each and every step counts. Ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude my speech, let me also add a little bit about Indonesia. Indonesia is the largest archipelagic country. We consist of 17,000 islands, and now we have 3 time zones. Our coastline is 108,000 kilometers. So we also are facing a lot of a problem about the poverty, but we are successful so far. I think the best achievement in our government today, the poverty we bring down to 9.88%. But this number, still huge number of population, like 25 million. 0.9, which is, I think, this is a target of government Indonesia to bring down by next year below 25 million. So, ladies and gentlemen, developing countries, emerging market like Indonesia, facing this kind of problem. So, if we work together, like Minister Naidu explained to us, I think we can achieve a lot of objective, a lot of progress in the near future. Let's work together. And let's do together, let's share some our technology, some our innovation. And like Mr. Naidu, I think inspiring me to see something that we can do also together to help to reduce poverty in my country. Ladies and gentlemen, we need more than ever collective leadership to push the SDGs investment agenda. So I'm very proud to be here today. I thank you to Mr. Satya. Thank you to all friends here, and I do hope that we can see some progress in the near future, not only meeting in such a very beautiful room like this, but I'd like to see also on the ground, how do we deal with the poverty in our own country. Let's do that. No country is an island of its own. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paluhut. Coming from you, a country of 17,000 islands, it really resonates that no country is an island of its own. So thank you so much. And thank you for the friendship, your partnership, and thank you for your leadership. Let me now invite Her Excellency Lina Paul, the Environment Minister of El Salvador, for her efforts to initiate this global decade of ecosystem restoration, and also insights from her part of the world, Latin America. Mr. Paul, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful being here in the middle of a lot of champions of the restoration. And actually, this is the reason that El Salvador launched this initiative about the decade of restoration. It's because we have a lot of experience around the world. I would like to talk about mine own program, but I'm not here saying that. I'm not going to do it. But we built a very comprehensive restoration program in El Salvador. And it's obvious. In the last IPCC report, El Salvador is one of the most vulnerable country because of the effect of the climate change. So it's not only because we want to restore and we want better production, it's because we need to adapt to the climate change. And obviously, restoration is one of the most effective way to adapt to the climate change effect. In my region, we lost about 4% of our GDP every year. In Africa, more than 5% of our GDP. So we need to accelerate our initiative. We need to scale, as Eric said, about this restoration program. And obviously, it's not only about environmental talking or environmental stuff, it's about economy. It's about accomplish the SDG. It's about to put all the agendas that we have about biodiversity, climate change, land degradation in one objective. The biggest companies now, they are demanding supplies and raw materials that meet high environmental standards. For example, Coca-Cola and Bacardi, they are request Bon Sucro certificate to the sugarcane producer. That's why I always drink Bacardi and Coca-Cola, just for environmental reasons. But the bank also is strengthening and focusing more on evaluating the risk associated with the investment that they finance, including environmental risk, rather than just relying on the credit record. So it is an urgent matter. It is important for environmental reason, but also for economic reason. That's why El Salvador and the Bone Challenge initiative, the El Salvador commitment was to restore the half of the country. And everybody say, come on, a small country, a financial problematic country, is gonna commit with the half of the country. And as I said in this meeting, it's not only a commitment, it's a necessity if we want to be a developed country sometime. So for us, for El Salvador, small country in Central America, restoration is something that we have to do. So when I heard in different meetings the champions like Rwanda, like Indonesia, India, and others, I said, the problem is that they are walking in different paths, in a biodiversity path, in a climate change path, in a desertification path, and we have to integrate all the agendas in terms of restore our planet. So we launched this initiative. Why don't we have a decade, the next decade, for the ecosystem restoration, 2021-2030. And why can we not put a common vision? All the people are here, but others, in a common vision, an integrated agenda, and to push and to scale in the planet. So restoration for us actually is possible. Restore the planet is possible. As you said before, and I know it's the same with the other, it's not only possible, but it's profitable. So fortunately, this has been adopted successfully for others. Africa, in the last ministerial meeting, put in the resolution that they support our agenda. All the countries in our region, in Central America region, have support our proposal. So the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration will enable the generation of different strategy streams that will boost action, a common vision, and as I said before, cooperation and mobilization of knowledge and marketings and so on. And the most important thing is more engagement. We have to do it. So thank you so much for being a huge support. Eric, thank you for your leadership in this initiative. And I am very sure that everybody here, but now you are the new ambassador of this initiative. You're gonna let me to say salud, this is my country, and another one, I don't know, with Bacardi and Coca-Cola, and to celebrate the decade very soon. Thank you so much, and it's an honor and a pleasure being here with such a great champion in restoration.
Thank you, Minister. I think, it's interesting that you mentioned Coca-Cola and Bacardi. I am reminded of my college days, so thank you. I feel very young again. With that, may I now invite His Excellency Vincent Biruta, the Environment Minister of Rwanda. Rwanda is a very inspiring story that we'll be hearing from the Honorable Minister soon. But I'm also mindful of the fact that in the General Assembly week, they really stick to the time. So we have about roughly 20 minutes to finish. But we also have a lot of colleagues in the front row that will be making statements of support. Minister, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to join such a distinguished group of representatives from around the world for tonight's important gathering. I would like to pass on the warm regards of President Paul Kagame, who had wished to be here, but unfortunately could not join us due to prior commitments. Financing sustainable landscapes requires a new way of doing business for governments, international organizations, civil society, and the private sector. And it's clear that the scope of the challenge demands action on a scale we have not seen before. And to achieve such large-scale action, we need to invest in the right things in the right way. And this means catalyzing more private capital for a range of development issues, from environment to health. But for blended finance to be truly impactful, it must be utilized within a strong legal and institutional framework that not only leverages private sector investment, but actively encourages it. Rwanda understands the challenge of sustainable landscape management with a hilly terrain, intense cultivation, mining that leads to siltation of our rivers. The country is already facing the impacts of climate change. More intense and frequent flooding has most recently caused landslides and tragically the loss of hundreds of lives. And this is just one reason why Rwanda 2 million hectares under restoration by 2020. And when I say 2 million hectares, for Rwanda it just means a border-to-border restoration program. And this pledge was under the Bond Challenge or Bond Challenge obligations. But we cannot allow climate change and unsustainable practices from extractive industries to undermine the progress we are making in landscape restoration. We must utilize the latest knowledge from around the globe in response to these challenges and scale up the good work already underway. In Rwanda, we have begun to use natural capital accounting as a way to better understand the value of ecosystem services and the investment opportunity for the private sector to play a role in protecting such services. This work is creating a national framework for the payment for ecosystem services, a critical element in enabling private capital to support adaptation, mitigation, and conservation. Another important approach is streamlining national and international flows of climate finance to ensure it is used effectively and in line with national development objectives. To harness these diverse sources of finance, we established the Rwanda Green Fund, which invest in transformational environment and climate change initiatives, including sustainable landscape restoration. Over the last 5 years, the fund has raised approximately $130 million for strategic climate resilience investments in Rwanda. These initiatives have created more than 135,000 green jobs, provided more than 57,000 households with improved access to off-grid clean energy, and protected 20,000 hectares of land against soil erosion. They have also supported more than 100,000 people to cope with the effects of climate change and planted 40,000 hectares of forest. While these represent significant progress, much of the fund's capital has come from development finance. This is an important source, but we know that to achieve our goal of building a developed low-carbon economy by 2050, we will need to harness a wider array of finance. As a result, the fund is now working with partners to design new financial instruments that will make it easier for the private sector to be part of our environmental protection initiatives. From the development of a green bank and climate bonds to equity stakes and guarantees, a number of financial tools are being explored that will harness the principles of blended finance to drive private investments. We are pleased to be partnering with the Global Innovation Lab for Climate Finance to develop and test such instruments, and are confident these efforts will lead to a significant upscaling of climate action and sustainable landscape restoration. As countries around the world undertake similar processes, we must share our experience with one another so that we may all benefit from these new financial mechanisms. The private sector has long been a missing piece of the puzzle, and now it's time we send the strong signal that the Paris Agreement and the Sustainable Development Goals not only represent obligations and targets, but also opportunities to expand prosperity around the world. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for not just being an environmental champion, but you're also a champion of keeping time so well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Drawing from your remarks, you talked so eloquently about bringing in the private sector in a very strong way into this whole conversation. And that brings me to our founding partner at the TLFF and the SIFF, the Sustainable India Finance Facility, BNP Paribas. And we have, and also I want to recognize the fact that BNP Paribas just recently won the Euro Money Best Sustainable Finance Bank of the Year award. So congratulations, BNP Paribas. We have with us Lawrence, who is the Global Head of Corporate Social Responsibility for BNP Paribas. Of course, we had intimated that the statements of support should be roughly within 3 minutes. So I would greatly appreciate if we can all keep it to 3 minutes each. Lawrence, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having BNP Paribas with you tonight. So we are the leading bank of the Eurozone, and we are committed to finance the economic development while having a positive impact on our stakeholders and contributing to a better future. So we took very serious public commitments for the environment and for the promotion of human rights, and we decided to use SDGs as a compass for our strategy. So what are the ways in which we can finance sustainable landscapes? I think the first one is to avoid that our financing activities have a detrimental impact on biodiversity and landscapes at large. That's why, if you consider deforestation, we strive not to have a negative impact through our financing activities, which could result in forest degradation or deforestation. So we took a commitment by 2020 to have a zero net deforestation achievement, which means that we expect our clients operating in sectors of activities which are exposed to biodiversity, such as agriculture, palm oil, or the mining industry, for example, to comply with certain criteria and to take similar commitments. So we want only to work and do business with corporates which consider biodiversity and which are ready to manage and mitigate their potential impacts. But we also acknowledge that even our clients who share our concerns on biodiversity and climate can face difficulties, and we have to be alongside them to support them on their continuous improvement journey and to be ready to acknowledge and reward their efforts. For example, we have been engaging with one of our clients who is a leading supplier of high-quality chocolate for some years, and we encourage him to improve the management of its supply chain, which was for us an area of concern. So as a consequence, they took a commitment to be carbon and forest positive by 2025, which is a great commitment. And we were able to offer them what we call a positive impact loan, which is a credit with a financing which is based on the achievement of sustainability criteria. And in this specific case, the criteria were the number of acres of forest regenerated. So this is a kind of success we can achieve only when we work hand in hand with one of our clients. But we can go even further and design tailor-made products in order to improve the sustainability of landscapes. And I think that in this respect, the partnership we signed with the UN Environment is really a very good example of innovative, creative, tailor-made and impactful products. So the idea, as you know, is to mobilize investor capital for projects combining ecology and the fight against poverty in rural areas. And the global objective is to collect $10 billion by 2025. So as you've understood, we're already well in track with those two brilliant projects alive and running. And so it's already a very good point of satisfaction. So as you can see, there are many ways for commercial banks to have a proactive role in financing sustainable landscapes, but we are convinced that we can only move the needle by joining forces with all our stakeholders, starting with our clients, with the end consumer, with public authorities, NGOs, MFIs, and of course, multilateral organizations. That's why SDG 17 is so key, and that's why coalitions are critical. So to conclude, I would like to say that we are really thrilled and honored to be here tonight with so many influential leaders, our current partners and partners to be, all mobilized for the common good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laurence. We couldn't have undertaken this journey without BNP Paribas. So thank you for your partnership, and thank you for stepping out of the comfort zone that is perhaps the biggest challenge that banks face today. They started by investing, the institutions were created in the early days, hundreds of years ago. It was investing with a purpose. That's how banks started. And somewhere we've lost our way. And I'm so glad BNP Paribas is leading the way back into investing with a purpose. With that, if I may invite Ruth Richardson, who is the Executive Director of the Global Alliance for the Future of Food, and is, of course, a very strong partner in the work we are doing in Andhra Pradesh as well, and, of course, elsewhere. Ruth, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. So, as Satya said, my name is Ruth Richardson. I'm with the Global Alliance for the Future of Food. The Global Alliance is a strategic alliance of 21 international philanthropic foundations that all have very different activities from many of the things mentioned here. Palm oil supply chains out of Indonesia, of course, supporting zero-budget natural farming in Andhra Pradesh, supporting farmers' rights in Africa, etc. Together, these foundations come together in the alliance to really push for food systems transformation together. The relevance of our work to this conversation is twofold given the topic of financing sustainable landscapes. First of all, we believe that food systems, agricultural landscapes, are one of the most critical aspects of sustainable landscapes. And two, of course, given that I represent 21 foundations, financing is the driving force behind the foundations committed to the Global Alliance's mission and mandate. So I want to talk a little bit about the sources of financing. Of course, private investment is absolutely essential to support sustainable landscapes and quite urgently. Of course, private capital is just from sheer volume, a huge percentage of financing available. So from that perspective, it's absolutely critical. As well, private enterprise, of course, has an important, indeed, foundational interest in seeing landscapes move towards more sustainably because they are so dependent on everything to do with sustainability, from a healthy environment to a happy workforce. As such, private enterprise is a key stakeholder in this global agenda, and we really need private sector as collaborative and engaged partners. This, however, does not diminish the need for public investment. The Global Alliance has supported many key pieces of research. For instance, with IPES Food, the high-level panel co-chaired by Olivier de Scuder on the food health nexus, study with Canabio, a major research institute in Mexico, on maize systems externalities and impacts, as well as a piece of research with a collection of agroecological leaders in the field on the importance of agrobiodiversity. All of these independent pieces of research point to the need for public funding, particularly in the field of research and knowledge generation. We really need funding that is distinctly for the public good, with the agenda constructed and promoted by public interest. So what is the role of philanthropy in this financing landscape? Philanthropy can play a unique role as catalyst and incubator, providing risk and innovation capital. As well, philanthropy has the ability to, and indeed is leading the way in impact investing. So in other words, using all of philanthropy's capital, from investments to grant-making dollars, for the kind of social transformation required of us at this important threshold moment for the planet and for humanity. We've seen this in the whole divest, invest movement, and we will continue to see it in different areas, such as food systems. I want to just finish by saying that one thing we desperately need, I think, as a financing community, is tools to help us understand the right kind of investments. We all know we've made bad investments, public, private, and philanthropic alike. And I would like to point to Team Agri-Food, which is a valuation framework that helps us look at food systems in a different way, and food systems policies, food systems investment, food systems practices. This is an incredibly powerful tool. I encourage you to look it up and to speak with those that are associated with it. We have the study leader here, Alexander Muller. We have a special advisor here, Pavan Sukhdev. And of course, this has been undertaken under the leadership of UN Environment. So I think this is an incredibly powerful diagnostic tool to help us understand the kinds of investments we need to make and to make those investments wisely. So ultimately, what Team Agri-Food leads us towards is financing that is in partnership with nature, informed by the voice of marginalized
Ruth,
and the most effective,
really, because
with
we have
multiple benefits.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
I know, unfortunately, we're running out of time, so, but I really want all our distinguished partners that are here to make the statements of support. So please bear with me, but kindly be very brief in your remarks. Let me start sequentially with Javier Mananjares, the Chief Executive Officer of the Green Climate Fund at this time, and then with brief remarks. Javier, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Santiago. To be brief, we at the Green Climate Fund welcome the opportunity to support this initiative by co-organizing this event. As the world's largest dedicated climate fund, the GCF has a particular interest in facilitating solutions that engage the private sector to promote sustainable land use. We were set up by the UN as the operating entity of the financial mechanism of the Convention to support global climate goals, and we now also serve the Paris Agreement, helping developing countries to achieve both their mitigation and adaptation targets. We have heard some exciting initiatives here today to finance sustainable landscape. And even more so, we have heard about a common denominator of working in partnership. At the GCF, all we do is in a partnership and through partnerships. And I'll just be brief, giving you some examples. In Morocco, with the Agency for Agricultural Development. In the Gambia, we're partnering with UN Environment. In Bhutan, we're partnering with WWF. In Morocco, we are protecting the natural forest of the Argan Biosphere Reserve by investing in sustainable arboriculture. In the Gambia, we support a large-scale ecosystem adaptation, restoring forests, mangroves, and savannas, whilst promoting natural resource-based business run by local communities. Finally, in Bhutan, we are launching a truly transformative approach to forest conservation. Bhutan for Life aims to protect 51% of Bhutan's territory that is protected land, ensuring that Bhutan can remain a carbon-neutral country. With that, I will not go much further, and I will just say that the GCF is still a new fund. We still have a lot of way for room and improvement. So far, the fund has approved 74 projects for $3 billion, and next month, our board will be meeting in Bahrain with over 20 projects for $1.2 billion. With that, I finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Javier. Let me invite Christiana, who's the Executive Secretary of the Convention on Biodiversity. And everything you've heard from the leaders from different parts of the world, biodiversity is at the heart and center of the conversation. Christiana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. It's late, and probably you're all looking forward to end the day, a long day at the UN, so I'll be very, very brief. There isn't that much to add after everything that's been said. I think I just want to first and foremost congratulate the ministers and all of you who are in the first row of implementation. I think the point about, what we discuss here in the UN translate into action on the ground, it's very important. So for me, the successes from Rwanda to Andhra Pradesh, Thailand, and El Salvador, and so many others around the room are extraordinarily inspiring. I want to congratulate the minister from El Salvador for her leadership and initiative to kickstart this decade on ecosystem restoration. It's critical, and I think it couldn't be more timely because it's coming at a time where we will prepare the next global framework for biodiversity and restoration. Let me assure you, I think it's going to be central to that agenda. So the fact that we are already starting this process, it's perfect. Thirdly, on the financing, I'm just going to give you some figures that are coming from a Credit Suisse and McKinsey report in 2016. A report entitled Conservation Finance from Niche to Mainstream, the Building of an Institutional Asset Class. According to this research, approximately 300 to 400 billion is needed annually to preserve healthy terrestrial and marine ecosystems. They also calculated that currently just 52 billion US dollars per year is flowing towards this ecosystem project. So where is this difference going to come from? I think that's going to come from innovative, creative financing from BNP Paribas taking the leadership, from the Inter-American Development Bank, from impact investors, from philanthropists, and we will indeed have to be extraordinarily creative because, GCF, it's servicing the Climate Convention, the GEF, it's servicing the Biodiversity Convention. With $1 billion for the next few years, it's nothing. So I think we will have to to, rely on partnership, rely on collaboration, rely on open minds, to try to work together towards a challenge that it's beyond each and every one of us can do individually. So with that, thank you very much, and I count on all your support and participation as we prepare this really new deal for nature to be launched in 2020. So stay with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christiana, for highlighting that the importance of partnerships to drive this existential agenda. Literally, it's all our existence depends on it, on biodiversity. We lose that, we lose everything. And that's why it's so, thank you so much for making that point so emphatically. That brings me to Elliot Harris, the Chief Economist of the UN, Assistant Secretary General in the Department of Economic and Social Affairs. Elliot, the floor is yours.
What comes to mind is a complaint that we've heard a lot, which is that there's a shortage of bankable projects in the pipeline, and these projects are not at scale. And secondly, that, well, the types of investment that need to happen are not commercially viable. I think the example of BNP Paribas shows very clearly that it is possible to take what might seem to be relatively mundane projects at small scale and to make a compelling business case for them. But even more important is that we have found a way, I think, through the TLFF and other innovations, to translate from the large-scale international finance to the small-scale retail investment. It is going to be impossible to invest the $7 trillion that we estimate we need $100,000 at a time. Can't be done. But with a translation mechanism such as this facility, I think we have an opportunity here to make a partnership, if you will, between big capital and small-scale investment in things that are critical for the biodiversity agenda, for sustainable agriculture, for sustainable development on the ground. And I think this is an opportunity, a very compelling opportunity that can be replicated and must be replicated if we're going to succeed in the sustainable development agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elliot. You were there at the front lines when we launched on 26th October 2016 in the Coordinating Ministry of Economic Affairs in the Republic of Indonesia. You were there representing UN Environment and the UN system along with Yannick. This wouldn't have been possible without your support all along, so thank you so much. That brings me to my partner in crime and founding partner of all these facilities, host Tony Simons, who's the Director General of the World Agroforestry Center. Tony, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Satya, and thank you, colleagues. ICRAP is pleased and privileged to be a partner working alongside the state of Andhra Pradesh, the government of Indonesia, and Pavan and the UN agencies. And we really applaud UNEP, UN Women, and UN Economic Commission for Europe for standing up and taking some risks, for being courageous. It takes really a lot of courage to do that, and we are very grateful. We also really salute BNP Paribas for standing out and taking risks themselves and entering a space, allowing independent groups to scrutinize them, to hold them to account, and to feel responsible for the investments that they are making. I'd like to make one quick point, and that is, as we seek to blend this finance, to bring these different sources of transformation together, we really need to be careful of the question, what does success look like? And we've heard a lot about certification. There are 140 agricultural certification systems in the world, and they're failing us. They're not working. The Global Reporting Initiative has 400 indicators. SAN platform has 120. The lowest RSPO has 37. We need 5, 8, 10. What are those proxy metrics that tell us 80 or 90% of what we need to know? We can add other things onto them, but the soil organic carbon, the higher plant diversity, the water use efficiency, the social inclusion, the good governance and ethics, what are those proxy metrics that will enable us to know that we're de-risking the smallholder, we're giving a good return on investment, and we're making sure that those monies are being leveraged not just for a financial return, but also for that social and environmental dividend? And we're pleased to be working with groups like here, Howard Shapiro from Mars, on trying to unpick that complexity of hundreds of indicators coming down to those 5, 8, 10 proxy metrics. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tony. That brings me to Joost, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the Sustainable Trade Initiative. Very important partner. ZBNF in Andhra Pradesh has signed an MOU with the IDH to help source 50,000 tons of cotton to start with. And then, of course, it could go, the numbers could grow as much as we can produce and supply, because it's a global platform with absolutely everybody you can think of is significant to the market. IDH works with them. So thank you, Joost, for the partnership. The floor is yours.
It's an honor to be here and to listen to all those courageous efforts, which I salute very much. I'm from the Netherlands. It's after the United States, the second biggest exporter of agricultural goods in the world. Out of 4 million hectares, we have more cows and chickens and pigs in the country than people. But our insect population decreased by 70% over the last 3 decades, and our carbon footprint of our dairy industry is the total carbon footprint that our country can have. So we don't live in harmony with nature. So I very much salute this approach of sustainable landscapes, and it's incredibly courageous what you're doing, sir, in your state to lead your country and don't make the mistakes of the Western world, because there has been many mistakes. I think for me there are 3 things that go together in the approaches that we learned. A value chain approach, and you correctly said you need marketing, right? Because you can stimulate your farmers to do the right thing, but you need markets to pick that up. We need a jurisdictional approach. I think that's what we have learned over the last few years, that if you try to certify farmers with business but not having the government as the leader, then you don't get anywhere, right? And you need an investment approach. So that value chain approach, the jurisdictional approach, and the investment approach, like the players of BNP Paribas. I think if we bring those 3 together, then hopefully we can make a difference on the broken food systems. We have launched the End Green Fund. I'd like to mention that, which is a de-risking first loss fund of 100 million by the Norwegian government and 25 million by Unilever to invest in similar things as we just discussed. Very pleased to be partnering with you in India on this, and hopefully we can help you market it into the world. We do a lot of jurisdictional sustainable landscapes in Indonesia. We work very closely with Invest Kalimantan in Aceh, in South Sumatra, to try to help the government in this jurisdictional approach. So I think this is really the way forward. Maybe one last point is we are launching the first verified sourcing area from Brazil in the Mato Grosso with the local mayors in the Mato Grosso in Brazil. So it's that marketing approach where at jurisdictional level farmers are farming sustainably, and then they are verified at the jurisdictional level. So we need to move from farm certification to jurisdictional verification. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joost. May I request, we have a natural farming anthem called One with the Earth. It is composed by Ricky Cage, Grammy Award winning musician, and among others is partnered with our rock star friend Rocky, who's our Goodwill ambassador. And Rocky, you should have been in the UNEP campus, the UN offices in Nairobi campus, to feel the electric when Rocky was performing very recently, after he was appointed UN Environment Goodwill Ambassador. So thank you both for being here today, and thank you for all your efforts. And then I want to express my deepest gratitude because this is all pro bono. Nobody has paid a penny to Ricky or Rocky to do any of this. They have taken this initiative themselves. And so we will end with the natural farming anthem, which comes out of Andhra Pradesh, One with the Earth. Could play it, please.
Plant your dreams in the soil, water them with love. Living in harmony is only natural. What an amazing gift this is, to be conscious and choose to do what's right. We got to stand up for life. Everybody together, together. Time to make it right. Time to make it right.
No more looking back. Times have been dark, but only so we can see the light. Now we've learned together that nature knows best. She's everything we need.
What an amazing gift this is, to be conscious and choose to do what's right.
We got to stand up for life.
Everybody together, together, together.
Time to make it right. Time to make it right.
May I please request Ricky and Rocky to come to the front? Ricky, can you please come to the front, and Rocky as well? Thank you. Ricky and Rocky. It's a fantastic collaboration across continents. Thank you both so very much. That brings us to the end of the proceedings. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sure.